This could be the most capable vehicle on the planet. It's the Toyota LandCruiser 70 series. It has a reputation that is unbelievable. And look, this one here is the new one. So it's got the new headlights, the new look. It's also got the new engine, the 2.8 litre turbo diesel with a 6-speed automatic transmission. And in this review, I'm going to tell you why the auto and that smaller engine is way better than the V8 manual. Yeah, you might be surprised why that is. Plenty to cover in this test. Let's get to it. No, it's not the right price. It's an ancient relic. It's a 40-year-old design. How dare they? All of those things. You're paying for reliability. You've probably heard all of these arguments when it comes to the 70 series, and there's validity to all of them because it is an old design and it is very, very expensive. But anyone who's owned a Land Cruiser will tell you, you aren't buying a car, you're investing in one. And look, for a vehicle that's designed to last a long time and do a lot of things, it doesn't seem like that bad value. So let's talk about some of the pricing things. The 4-cylinder range starts at around $75,000 and through to about $83,500 for this version, the GXL dual cab. I'm not going to go through all of the different variants and permutations because it'll take too long. Just know there's still a single cab, there's still a dual cab, there's still a Troopy, and there's still the 76 wagon as well. And if you want the V8, you can still get it. It's still available and it costs more now. And remember, that's if you can even get your hands on one, or even if the Toyota dealership that you go to will take an order for one, because the wait list is still very long for the 70 series. Having said that though, the updated version does have a few features that have changed over the existing ones, including LED lighting with LED daytime running lights. Not sure about the design of those though. There's a slightly different front end look as well. On the inside, you get a new touchscreen media system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, USB connected for both of those. And you've also got a new little digital instrument panel on the gauge cluster as well with a digital speedo, and it'll also show you the speed sign for basically what speed you should be traveling. Now, you still have to step up to the GXL if you want high-end inclusions like electric windows and carpet on the floor and actual trim on the seats rather than vinyl. So, yeah, doesn't feel like $80,000 or so worth of ute compared to some of the best alternatives to it. In fact, let me tell you about those now. If you're looking at a LandCruiser 70 series, there's a good chance you don't care about alternatives. This is what you want, and I can understand that. Look, these vehicles do have the best reputation on the planet when it comes to reliability. I'll tell you a little bit about the reliability stuff later on, but if you are maybe on the fence about spending 85 grand on something that doesn't have that many features, then how about you consider another Toyota ute? The HiLux. There are a bunch of different variants available and all of them have more features than the 70 series. I've done a few reviews in HiLuxes and you can find them in the description below. I reckon that that is a seriously good off-road capable truck if that's what you want. If all you want to do is go exploring and towing, it does that really well as well. So it could be a really good choice for you. It just leaves a little bit to be desired when it comes to the on-road driving manners because it is really firm riding. Another option you might consider, but probably haven't, is the Mahindra pickup. It's an Indian-made, purpose-built 4x4 thing. And look, it does come with the choice of single cab or dual cab. You can get it with an automatic transmission. And it has some of the best reliability reported out there from an Indian-made vehicle. In particular, check out the review on Redriven. They had a few of those vehicles around with more than 500,000 Ks on them, trouble-free kilometers as well. I mean, if it was me and I was looking for an $85,000-ish ute, then I would be buying a Ford Ranger Raptor because it can do serious off-roady stuff. It can't tow anywhere near as much as this, and it can't take a load as well as this, but it could be a really, really good alternative if you are after something that's A, automatic, B, really good. So tell me what you think in the comment section below, or have I just got it completely wrong and wasted my breath telling you alternatives to this? Because like I said, if you want one, you'll have to wait. She's a pretty big rig, this thing, at around 5.2 meters, depending on the tray. Look, all of them are pretty sizable. They're very tall as well, up to 2.1 meters in height for some of them, the Troopy in particular. The standard ones, like this one, are still 1.95 meters or thereabouts, so you're looking at basketballer height there. Now, the front end, you can make up your own mind about that redesign. Those headlights look a little bit cheapo to me. They look a little bit Wish or Alibaba add-on aftermarket style, but hey, you might love them, that's fine. Still got the same sort of classic proportions, still the weird section underneath the back door where the wheel should probably sit but doesn't because of the dual cab body size. And yes, I'm not going to go into too much detail on the tray of this vehicle because, well, it's just a stock Toyota tray and you'll probably come up with some kind of tub solution for your needs if you are buying one of these vehicles. Now, it's worth keeping in mind you still do get the full-size alloy wheel spare at the back, and also you still have the narrower track situation across the board. Apparently Toyota Australia did lobby for that to be changed for this model year update, but it wasn't. So that might annoy you, just depends on what your user case scenario is. Now, I'll show you on screen some of the figures that you need to know, including the payload capacity range across the board. You've also got the gross vehicle mass, and now I'll show you the gross combination mass. And yes, every single version of the 70 series has the capability of towing up to 3.5 tons. So, sizes up pretty well, I reckon. You aren't buying a LandCruiser 70 series because you want the luxury items in life. I understand that, but I mean, it could be nicer in here. Could be a lot nicer, in fact. This is still the same sort of basic layout as we've seen for more than a decade now for the 70 series. And while it's fine, it's not great. There are some ergonomic issues here. You bash your elbow on the glass when the windows are up. You also bash the seatbelt buckle on the glass when you undo it as well. And while there have been some changes that are welcome, this new 6.7-inch touchscreen media system is better than the last screen that was available because it has plug-in Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and that means that you can do business while you're driving or just stay connected while you're driving. So that's good. And so is this little digital speedo in this cluster. It's got the heritage look instrument detailing, but at least you get that little digital element to it, which does make it a lot easier to live with in day-to-day driving. Otherwise, the controls are all very much as they have been, apart from a couple of USB-C ports here and a few buttons that weren't on other examples of this car, like second gear start, power haul, both of which are designed for when you're using the auto to do hard work. And look, you've still got these amazing air conditioning controls, which are clicky, tactile little objects. I like them. And you get a new steering wheel as well. So, storage, you've got a little cup holder here, a covered center console section with a removable tray. So, yep. Oh, there's one more cup holder down there. It all feels very plasticky. These seats have that velour trim. It's manual adjustment. You've got carpet on the floor. I don't know what else I can tell you. There's not a whole lot going on in here. Let's check out the second row space and see if it's livable enough for a family. Righto, before I do show you what's going on in the back here, I just want to show you that you can tilt this seat forward in a complete motion if you wish to. I'll also call out the fact that you don't have top tether points for child seats in here. So if you are planning to put a kid's seat in, you're out of luck. You can put boosters in, but not actual seats. Yep, that clunks into place. You can also fold down the seat back if you wish. So you do have a secure storage space if you want that. If you want to keep things dry out in the elements, then you've got that option available to you. Right, so put this seat back up. Now, let me hop in and show you some of the issues with this back seat space. I'll shut the door. Not comfortable. Not at all. This seat is set for my driving position at 182 centimeters or 6 foot. Knees are hard up. I've got good footroom and headroom. The seat back is very upright, so it's not very comfortable. And I want to call out one thing that is, I think, a real issue for this car. It's a lap-only center seat belt. Just like in that SsangYong that I drove a while ago, I think that's rubbish. You shouldn't be dealing with potentially very dangerous stuff like lap-only seat belts in 2024. It's bloody ridiculous. You've got map pockets on the seat backs, no child seat anchor points, no ISOFIX. I don't know why you'd buy this thing if you were thinking about it for your family. I wouldn't. The big news for this updated version of the Toyota LandCruiser 70 series is this engine and the transmission attached to it. It's the new 2.8 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel, familiar from the Prado, the HiLux, the Fortuner, so the outputs are familiar as well. You'll see them on your screen now. And yep, it comes as standard with 2 pedals, not 3. It's an automatic, a 6-speed auto, and you still get selectable 4-wheel drive with low-range gearing as well. So it's still capable, still off-roadable, and look, it's got more torque than the V8. Now the V8 does continue on, it's more expensive. So if you really want the V8, you're gonna have to pay extra for it and probably wait for it as well. And it is a good engine, there's no doubt about it, but it also feels outdated and lazy compared to this, because this changes the game for the 70 series. Let me show you. All right, 4-cylinder LandCruiser, here we go. As you can probably hear, it's still very loud, but hey, the V8 is even louder. Now, let's talk about this 2.8 litre 4-cylinder engine and this 6-speed automatic transmission. They're good. They work really well together, and it makes this vehicle feel faster and more day-to-day usable than the V8 with the manual. Look, the V8 with the manual still does have its place, I reckon, but this powertrain changes the game for this vehicle. It makes it a far more amenable and day-to-day likable car. And yes, if you do a lot of freeway driving, if you do a lot of highway driving or commuting, if you live in the west of Sydney or in one of the suburbs outside Melbourne, wherever it may be, and you want to have a 70 series for whatever reason, then this will be the most livable option for you. It also has ample grunt, like without a trailer or anything attached. It's just a very, very willing powertrain. Noisy, as I said, but willing. And so it does pull along really quite well. And I mean, I would expect that. In the HiLux and the Prado and the Fortuner, this 2.8 litre engine and the 6-speed auto always has felt pretty perky. And yeah, it's no different here, even though this is a bigger vehicle. It's still a ladder frame vehicle, still got live axles front and rear, so it's still a bit on the firm and bouncy and bumpy side when it comes to dealing with just even semi-decent road surfaces like I'm on now. I mean, it's not the best street, but it is still not the greatest and most comfortable vehicle that you could buy for this kind of money. Another thing that I really appreciate about this 4-cylinder engine is the fact that it changes the way the car handles itself. It feels a little bit more dynamic, and I know you're not buying this vehicle for dynamism, but it does feel like it's got just a bit more agility because it's lighter over the front axle. So it's a bit easier to steer, although the turning circle is still diabolically large. So if you live in an urban area and you're thinking about a 70 series, think again, buy a Jimny or something instead, because yeah, this thing has a huge turning circle. But hey, let me show you just how good this thing can be when you're asking more of it. Let's go tow something. The thing that's standing out to me when it comes to towing with this 4-cylinder automatic version of the 70 series is that it's better at getting up to pace than it is at maintaining pace. And what I mean by that is The 4-cylinder engine and the 6-speed auto do a really good job when you're trying to accelerate away from a standstill, whether it's, you know, coming out of a car park or just managing between traffic lights or through roundabouts or whatever it is. It's good at doing the lower speed stuff. It's good at getting you away and keeping you going up to a point, but once you're at sort of 80 to 100 k's an hour, the transmission becomes a bit busier and you find that you are starting to feel like there isn't quite as much torque in reserve available to you. Still, it isn't necessarily slow up hills or anything. It just is maybe feeling a little bit more of the mass behind it than you might expect when you are at higher speeds in particular. It is a little bit hard to judge what's happening with the steering. It's got quite a light feel on center, and that means that it isn't the most confidence-inspiring feeling to the driver's hands when you're trying to make little adjustments to keep the vehicle in its line. Look, I know it's got, you know, a ladder chassis, it's a body-on-frame vehicle, it's designed for all sorts of stuff other than just towing, but it does feel a little bit less reliable in terms of the responsiveness from the steering when you are towing. So if you are going to be towing a lot and this is your primary means of towing, then you might find that, well, the steering could be just a little bit better. Now, the ride is a bit of a punish, as I've said. Over bumpy sections of road, it never quite feels as cushy or as cozy as a modern day ute. It might be maybe on par with a HiLux when it comes to comfort, but I wouldn't say that that's an achievement that you want to write home about, because HiLux is pretty uncomfortable. So yep, I think that you might be fine with the ride, but you might also want to find yourself heading to an aftermarket supplier to get some new shocks or springs or something, because it can be, well, makes you feel like you should lose a little bit of weight, let's put it that way. I have tested the caravan that I'm towing with a Ford Ranger in the past as well, and the Ranger V6 Wildtrak, well, it did a really good job of towing. So if you aren't sure whether you need or want to spend this kind of money on something that is this compromised, because remember, this is a pretty compromised vehicle in terms of creature comforts and safety elements for families, then yep, maybe you should be looking at something else, and I've got a bunch of different alternatives listed in the description below for you to see some different video reviews there. Now, I know that there is an aftermarket that does reversing cameras as well. I've installed a couple myself, and I reckon that, bloody hell, this ride. I reckon that an easy improvement to make this a more livable vehicle, if you are planning to buy one and tow with it, would be a reversing camera, because lining it up, like I said, you're going to need to have a friend with you or make a friend wherever you are to try and help you line up when you're reversing up to hitch something. Okay, for this off-road component, I'm not necessarily doing what you might consider to be off-road, but to some people, going on gravel trails on the way to a campsite is off-roading. That's what I'm doing right now. So this is more of an unsealed driving review, and for the most part, it is pretty good, I have to say. You do have the long wheelbase, which does make for a pretty stable ride in terms of like nose to tail movement. Obviously, you've also got live axles, so it does feel lots of the bumps in the road surface, and there's a fairly big contact patch with the road as well. And remember, you've also got a narrower track at the rear axle, so it does feel a little bit different to some other vehicles in terms of the way that it handles itself on surfaces like this. But yeah, this just gives you an idea that it is a pretty capable thing, but might not be the most comfortable thing. And yeah, you've got low range, you've got front and rear diff locks. If you ever find yourself in that amount of trouble, you will be able to hopefully get out of it. But just keep in mind that I'm not a hardcore off-road reviewer, and if you want to find maybe some more testing of this vehicle with a bit more of the hardcore element thrown in, then I'm sure you can do that on YouTube. The big benefit of the 4-cylinder and the automatic at this sort of speed, when you're just coasting along a pretty bumpy old country track, is that it does have a nice level of refinement to it. It's not loud. You don't have to really think about progress at all. You can just accelerate, and the transmission does a pretty good job in this sort of situation. So if you are planning to do the big outback trip and you know that you're going to be encountering the sort of thing where you're doing 50 or 60 k's an hour rather than, you know, freeway speeds, then it might be perfectly fine for you. So just putting it into high range now, just pulling that shifter straight down, give it a good tug, back into drive, and there's a little indicator on the dashboard that tells you that you are in high range. And when you do engage four-wheel drive, you do get a different sensation to the steering. As you probably would expect now, I'm not just steering, I'm also using that front axle to help propel. So the steering does get a bit more weighty, and I still think that it does have a decent amount of feel and responsiveness to the steering as well for these sorts of situations where you're dealing with pretty loose surface gravel tracks, and it certainly feels a little bit more sure-footed of itself compared to driving in rear-wheel drive. One thing that's not fantastic in a 70 series is the turning circle. Now I'm in high range, so I'm asking the front axle to do some work as well. And this turning circle, all right, we're going back. I'm not gonna make it on this lock. Nope. So a 3-point turn in most other vehicles turns into a 5-point turn. All right, I'm just gonna retry that 3 or 5-point turn without the front axle working for drive as well, and it does make a huge difference in terms of the turnaround. So that means a 5-point turn turns back into a 3-point turn. So yeah, there are a few considerations when it comes to the off-road element of this vehicle. Huge turning circle when you're in 4 high, and it's also not the easiest thing to figure out your dimensions with, because, well, unless you're touch parking, you really are left at a bit of a guess game. So look, those considerations might not matter to you, and the reputation for reliability and off-road massive capability could be enough to just make you buy this car anyway. I could understand that. The other big consideration for choosing the 4-cylinder over the V8 is fuel consumption, obviously. So on your screen now, you'll see the official combined cycle fuel consumption figure for the 4-cylinder version of this vehicle. Look, that seems pretty reasonable. If you can achieve that, you'll be pretty happy, I reckon. And now you'll see the V8's fuel consumption. Yes, it's higher, as you would expect, and in my experience, you will use a little bit more than that as well. And now I'm going to show you what I've achieved during my time in this 70 series automatic. So firstly, I'll show you just on-road driving, not loaded, not towing, not off-roading, which is actually, I think, pretty respectable. Then it came to the towing test, which, yep, pushed things up as you would expect, nearly 3 tons on the back. And now I'll show you the numbers that I saw when I took it off-road. So yes, I think it's okay in terms of efficiency, but it's not hybrid-like, that's for sure. The single cab versions of the 70 series previously had a 5-star ANCAP safety rating, which was basically in play just so they could sell them into the mines in Australia. Doesn't apply anymore, it has expired. So at the time I'm filming this, which is January 2024, there is no ANCAP safety rating for any 70 series. I mean, that could rule it out for you, or maybe not, if you're looking at this sort of vehicle anyway. It does have extra tech for the 2024 update though, including autonomous emergency braking. You've also got a lane departure alert system, so it won't do like full steering of the car, but it can tell you if you're wandering from your lane. And there's a traffic sign recognition system as well, but thankfully it doesn't beep and bong like some other cars, so it's not that annoying. And if you choose the 76, the wagon, you now get a reversing camera as standard. You don't in this dual cab or the single cab or the Troopy. So it is falling behind, and it is in the way of airbag protection as well. Still get a full gamut when it comes to the single cabs, but other versions in the range still miss out on potentially life-saving side curtain airbags for second row occupants. Bit disappointing. You're buying a Toyota LandCruiser 70 Series because you are looking for something that will last a lifetime, maybe even outlast your lifetime. Hopefully not, but it is a bit needy when it comes to maintenance. Every 6 months or 10,000 Ks are your service intervals, and they're not cheap to maintain either. Whether you choose the V8 or the 4-cylinder, you're looking at $525 per service for the first 10 services. It's a lot of investment in reliability, if you ask me. You have to pay extra if you want roadside assistance as well. That's not included, but you do get a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty for Toyota products in Australia. And if you maintain logbook servicing with an approved provider, you will also get 7 years of powertrain warranty for the V8 or the 4-cylinder as well. Nice. Like I said, this is a seriously capable vehicle. It can tow, it can go off-road, and with this 2.8 litre 4-cylinder engine and that 6-speed auto, it's way better than the V8 ever was. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. Would you buy the V8 or would you buy this 4-cylinder with the auto? I'd love to hear from you, and if you haven't already, please like, subscribe and ring the bell to keep up to date with all of my reviews. See you later.